We're going to talk about the net to seller sheet and how to fill it out and where to find it. So when you're working with sellers, this is a very important document and you'll use it at the listing appointment, and sometimes you'll use it again typically when you receive an offer, and it's especially important if you have multiple offers. So the first place that you can find it is in your team folder in Google Drive. So you go to Team Templates. It'll be in the seller folder templates because it's a document that we use with sellers. And there it is, net to seller. So from here, you can't fill it out on here. Well, I guess you probably could. You could make a copy and fill it out, but you could definitely print it from here and then fill it out by hand, which is totally fine. The other option would be to go to .loop, and you would go to your Avenue Group loop, and you'd go down to the seller docs, and there it is, net to seller, and you'll see two here. So the first one, it says print, so that is intended for you to print it directly from here. You would want to go up to file and go to print and then download that way. If you wanted to add it to your loop, you would go back to net to seller and go to fillable, click the three dots, you would make a copy, and then you would add it to whatever loop you wanted to. So, but right now, just for this, I'm going to show you how to fill it out. So property, you put the address in there. So you could say 123 Main Street. Closing date, I usually say to be determined. Price, we'll just say it's a $300,000 house. Seller, you can put their name there. Sally Seller. And then purchaser, depending if it's at your listing appointment, you don't know who the purchaser is yet, you say to be determined. If you were using this for an offer that you received, or if you had multiple offers, you would then put either the purchaser, or sometimes I will just put the real estate agent's name. So especially if you have multiple offers, it makes it easier to keep track of who's who and which offer is which. So mortgage payoff, sometimes you'll have this information and sometimes the seller will freely share it with you. Other times it's not super important as long as you know that what they owe on the house is less than what they're going to net. So we'll come back to that in a little bit. So deed preparation, I always put $100. I think sometimes people are putting $150 now. So if you want to overestimate a little bit, that's fine. Conveyance fee is going to be $4 per 1,000 of the purchase price. So in this case, it would be $1,200 because it's the purchase price of $300,000, and there. So you would do 300 times 4, so $1,200. Professional services, of course, this is going to change depending on the client and what's negotiated. But if you've negotiated, say, a 6%, then professional services would be, I have to get my calculator out, 300,000 times 0.06 is $18,000. Real estate taxes, the way that you want to do this is you would have your tax information from the auditor site. Remember that in Clark County, we pay our taxes 1 year in arrears. So depending on what the date is of the closing or when you're listing the property, it's going to change this. So if it is, let's say you are listing the property in January through June, we'll say, then chances are they've paid for the first half of January of the year prior, but they haven't paid for the second half. So you would want to say, if, like right now, it's June of 2024. So if I was going to list a property today, then the seller is probably getting ready to write a check for, I think we pay our taxes in January and July. So they're getting ready to write a check for the second half of 2023. So in this case, being June of 2024, they're going to pay prorated taxes for the first half of 2024. And this is confusing, and I can help you through this. So I usually do real estate taxes 2024, and then I write first half. This information is in the auditor site, and it will be, it's done twice a year. So it'll be half of the year, you'll put that net. So we'll just say it's $1,200 here. And then you can prorate the days. I never do. I find it really confusing. I just say prorated. And so you just let them know that taxes will be prorated from the date of to the date of closing. Seller is responsible to pay the taxes. From the date of closing forward, then buyer pays for the taxes. Transaction fee, Glass House charges $349 fee. So that's a good place to go through this here. And at the very end, we can go through all of this, and I will show you how I actually present it to sellers. Home warranty, a lot of times buyers will ask for a home warranty. They're all different prices. You can put in the price here, typically maybe like $650. $650, and then I put a question mark because we don't know that they're going to ask for that, but it's good for them to kind of plan. And then there's almost always some kind of repairs, and sometimes buyers do ask for closing costs. I have this here more just as a place where you can explain to your sellers that this is something that they can maybe plan for, but I don't always put it here. So typically they're anywhere from, closing costs. Repairs can be about $1,000 for repairs is what I estimate. Closing costs can be, $3,000 to $5,000. I'll usually just put question mark here. This comes more into play when you have multiple offers or you're presenting an offer, and you might deduct those things here. So now what you want to do is you go back through all these things, and if you knew what they owed on their loan, you would put that there. And so you go through and you add all these things up. So 100 plus 1,200 plus 18,000. Oops. Start over. 100 plus 1,200 plus 18,000 plus 1,200 plus 349 equals $20,849. So you would put that here under total deductions, $20,849. Then what you want to do is subtract that figure from their purchase price. So 300,000 minus 20,849 equals 279,151. So that is their net proceed, that minus, of course, what they owe on the house. So if they don't want to share what they owe on the house, then I typically say something like, as long as what you owe is less than this number, then I don't need to really know about it. If you're close, like probably I should know about it, and that's going to help with negotiations. But so anyway, I always stress to them that this is an estimated closing cost, but that at the closing table from the title company, they're going to have a closing document, and it's going to have everything itemized out down to the penny, and they will be able to review that before closing. So when I'm in a listing appointment, the way that I go through this is I go through pretty quick, and I tell them this is we're going to list at say 300,000, so I've estimated that's what your purchase price is going to be. Your mortgage payoff, I don't need to know, necessarily what that is, as long as I know what I said before, like that it's going to be less than this number, just to make sure you're not having to bring money to the closing table. If that were the case, I would need to know that. Deed preparation is typically about $100 or so estimate. Conveyance fee is $4 per 1,000 of the purchase price. So depending on what this number is, this number can change. Our professional services are 6%. That's 3% to the listing agent, 3% to the buyer's agent, and that's $18,000. And then I immediately almost without taking a breath, go right into the real estate taxes. And I say, in Clark County, we pay our taxes 1 year in arrears. Are you familiar with that, or would you like me to go through it with you? And typically they have no idea. Most people don't even know what the word arrears means. I didn't until real estate. But so you want to explain that to them. And we'll practice all of this so that you're comfortable with it. And I still fumble over it from time to time because it is confusing and it is dependent on what the date is. So I'll say, you're going to be, it's June of 2024 right now. You're going to be paying for your first half of 2024. You're getting ready to pay for your second half of 2023, beginning of July. At the closing table, they will take out your taxes for the first half of 2024, which is $1,200, and then they'll prorate it to the day of closing. So if you close in August, they're going to prorate those days from July 1st until the date in August when you close. The transaction fee is $349. That is a fee that is charged by Glass House Realty Group, and it covers tech fees. It covers everybody on the back end who's making checks on all the documents that we have to make sure everything is signed and initialed in the right places to make sure everything is done legally in the state of Ohio. There's probably ways that we can brainstorm how else to present this $349, but being relatively new to having a transaction fee, I haven't quite finessed this yet, but so far in the times that I have presented it, I haven't had any pushback. So don't overthink it. It's just another fee. And then I always say, like I said to the seller, occasionally a buyer will ask for a home warranty. Sometimes your seller might want to go ahead and just offer the home warranty, which is a free service to them as sellers. They have that coverage as seller coverage. And then when the buyer goes to buy the property, that cost comes out of their closing costs. So again, your buyer might ask for a home warranty. This is a one-time fee that you'll pay that will cover the buyer for a term of 1 year. It comes off your bottom line at closing. You don't have to bring any cash to closing to cover this. It's not something that we have to worry about right now, but in the event that the buyer asks for this with their contract, then it's here, and you just are aware of what it is. Sometimes buyers will ask for closing costs in their purchase contract. This has not been common in the pandemic years, but is now we're starting to see closing costs again. Typically it's around 3%, up to about 3% of the purchase price. It's typically anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000, something like that. These are negotiable. It's not anything you have to worry about right now, but again, just so you're aware, this is sometimes something that buyers ask for. Then we'll talk about repairs. Almost every single house there is some kind of issue, whether it's electrical or plumbing, anything like that. But a lot of times buyers will ask for the seller to make repairs. So I typically say estimate around $1,000 for those repairs. Again, those things are all negotiable, and we'll cover those things as we go through the purchase contract. So your total deductions are going to be $20,849, which gives you a net of $279,151. And again, this is just an estimate. It is not accurate down to the penny. So, and then what you're going to want to do is going to have them sign here just to show that you did present it. That way, I can't imagine, but it is possible, like when you get to closing and you've got your closing statement from the title company and they're like, what's this $349? You can go back to this and say, remember, we discussed this fee. So that is the net to seller. We will go over at another time how to present multiple offers using this sheet.